My phone buzzed at 7:14 p.m. A photo for my daughter-in-law's account. My entire family, my wife, my grandkids, my brother, even my elderly mother, all sitting around a big round table at a fancy downtown restaurant, laughing, clinking glasses. My son Marcus standing tall at the head of the table, tie loosened, grinning like a king. Nobody called me. Nobody texted me. My own son got promoted to regional director, and the whole family went to celebrate, without me. I sat alone in my kitchen, cold coffee, quiet house. Marcus looked straight into that camera and smiled, and I made a decision right then and there that changed everything between us. What they didn't know was I had been waiting for a moment exactly like this. If this story already feels familiar, hit that like button and subscribe. You're going to want to see how this ends. Let me give you just enough background. My name is Walter. I'm 58 years old, retired electrician, spent 34 years working union jobs across 3 states. Marcus is my only son. I put him through college every single semester, picked up extra weekend shifts so he could focus on his studies. When he landed his first corporate job, I drove 6 hours to be there for his first day. I pressed his shirt the night before. I wasn't just his father, I was his foundation. And his promotion, that regional director title, I helped him prepare for that interview. We sat at this same kitchen table for 3 nights straight. I asked him the tough questions. I told him how to carry himself, how to speak with authority without sounding arrogant. He got the job. Then he took everyone else out to celebrate and left me home. Here's what bothered me more than the dinner itself. When I called my wife afterward, she paused just a little too long before she said, "Oh, honey, I thought Marcus called you." That pause, that one small pause told me everything. This wasn't a mistake. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry. I was past anger. I lay in the dark and I thought about a Tuesday morning in 1999. Marcus was 8 years old. He had a science fair project due. He'd been working on it for 2 weeks. The night before, he knocked the whole thing off the table, broke everything. He cried so hard he couldn't breathe. I stayed up until 3 a.m. rebuilding it with him. He won second place. I still have the ribbon in my dresser drawer. Now I'm 58, and my son forgot to call me when something good happened in his life. I thought about my own father. He was a quiet man, hardworking. He told me once, "Son, people show you who they are when they don't think you're watching." Dad, you were right. Here's what I didn't do. I did not call Marcus crying. I did not show up at his door. I did not text my wife a paragraph about how hurt I was. Instead, I got up the next morning, made a fresh pot of coffee, and sat very still. Because something inside me shifted that night. I wasn't going to chase dignity. I was going to let the truth reveal itself, and I was going to be ready when it did. The next few weeks, I played it completely normal. I called Marcus on Sundays like I always did. I asked about work, I listened, I smiled into the phone. He never brought up the dinner. Not once. And that silence, that comfortable silence on his end, told me Marcus thought he'd gotten away with something. He thought I didn't know, but I did. I started paying closer attention, not in a bitter way, in a strategic way. I noticed that Marcus had started mentioning someone named Dale, his new VP at the company. Marcus talked about Dale the way he used to talk about me. Dale says this, Dale thinks that. Dale gave me advice about... That stung, I won't lie, but I stored that information, filed it away quietly. Then I got a call from my old friend Raymond. He works in commercial real estate in Toronto, splits his time between there and Detroit. Raymond mentioned he was coming down to Chicago for a conference in about 6 weeks. I told Raymond I had an idea. Raymond listened, then he laughed and said, "Brother, you haven't changed one bit." I also had a quiet conversation with my wife, a real one, just the two of us. She cried. She admitted she'd known about the dinner plans and felt too uncomfortable to speak up. I didn't yell. I didn't lecture. I just said, "When the time comes, I need you to trust me." She nodded. Now here's the question I need you to sit with for a moment. Was Marcus truly ungrateful, or was something else happening behind the scenes? Before I tell you, if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because this next part is where everything changes, and you do not want to miss it. 6 weeks later, Raymond arrived in Chicago. I picked him up from the airport personally. We had dinner, just the two of us, at a quiet steakhouse on the north side. Raymond is a successful man, built his business from nothing in Windsor, Ontario, then expanded into Toronto, then Detroit. He carries himself with real weight. And Raymond owed me a favor, a big one. Years back, I'd connected him with a contractor that saved his biggest project from falling apart. That dinner, it was the setup. 3 days later, Raymond attended his industry conference downtown. Marcus's company had a booth there. Marcus was working it. Raymond walked up, introduced himself, and struck up a conversation. Completely natural, no script. Raymond is just that kind of man. An hour later, Marcus called me. His voice was different. "Dad, I just met Raymond Cole at the conference. He says he knows you. Dad, why didn't you ever tell me Raymond Cole was your friend?" I let the silence breathe for a moment. "You never asked, son," I said. He stumbled over his words. I could hear the shift happening inside him in real time. The foundation he thought he'd outgrown, it just showed up at his conference in a tailored suit. 2 weeks after that conference, Marcus called again. This time, he asked if he could come over. He sat down at this same kitchen table, the one where we prepped for his interview, and he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Dad, Raymond told me something." I waited. "He said you called in a favor for me, that you asked him to come by the booth. He didn't have to tell me that, but he did." Raymond, always straight. Marcus looked at his hands. "I didn't invite you to the dinner," he said. "I told Mom you were tired, that you probably wouldn't want to come, but that wasn't true. I didn't think you'd fit in with the work crowd." There it was. After 34 years of overtime shifts and pressed shirts and 3 a.m. science projects, my son was embarrassed by me. I didn't explode. I didn't cry. I looked at him calmly and said, "Marcus, Raymond Cole built a $40 million business. He still calls me every month because I showed up when it mattered. Respect isn't about what you do for a living. It's about who you are when nobody's watching." My father's words, delivered 30 years later. Marcus put his face in his hands. Here's the poetic irony of it all. The very person Marcus brought in to replace my influence in his life, Dale, his VP, was later let go in a company restructuring. 2 months after that conversation at my kitchen table, Marcus came back and asked me to help him prepare for his next step up. We sat right here again, just like before. Marcus and I rebuilt slowly. That's the honest truth. It wasn't one conversation that fixed everything. Trust is like that. It breaks fast and heals slow. But something changed in how he spoke to me. He stopped talking at me and started talking to me. My wife told me later that Marcus had cried on the drive home that night. She said he called himself a fool. I didn't need to hear that. I already knew. And here's what I want you to understand. I never wanted to humiliate Marcus. I wanted him to see me, to remember where his strength came from. The greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so undeniable that the person who dismissed you has no choice but to reckon with what they lost. Marcus is still climbing. He's doing well. And now he calls me first. Think back to that photo, my family at that big round table, laughing without me. I almost let that image define me. I almost let the hurt make me bitter. Instead, I let it make me sharper. Here's the lesson I'll leave you with. You don't need to fight to be valued. You need to be so grounded in who you are that the truth does the fighting for you. Patience is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do is simply wait and let his life speak. I'm 58 years old, and I've never felt more certain of who I am. Now, I want to ask you something, and I mean this sincerely. Has someone in your life ever underestimated you because of your age, your job, or where you came from? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. If this story hit close to home, like this video. It tells me to keep sharing these stories. Subscribe if you haven't already, because every week we tell the stories that the people who dismissed us never expected us to tell. And if you know someone who's been overlooked, been left out, been made to feel like they no longer matter, share this video with them. Let them know their time isn't over. It's just getting started.